This is FIPT 104 at Miramar College, and this is the group presenting on the Hyatt Regency Walkway collapse. Group members are Ryan Holt, Kyle Dean, Andrew Armagost, and Jack Frye. Some brief history of the hotel and its construction. The construction began in 1978 on this 40-story building in Kansas City, Missouri. This building was built during a nationwide pattern of large construction buildings being built inexplicably fast with little oversight due to the high inflation and interest levels which greatly affected the contractors. During construction, the hotel had a 2,700 square foot roof collapse, which ultimately delayed the construction until officially opened July 1st, 1980. The hotel's lobby, which included the two elevated walkways, floated in the air, and it was a unique architectural design which were named the sky bridges. Each of these walkways was approximately 120 feet in length and were approximately 64,000 pounds each. The walkways were constructed out of three main materials, being steel, glass, and concrete. One of the walkways was on the second floor, and the other walkway was located directly above on the fourth floor. In the original design, both sky bridges were supported by the ground level columns, but this was later changed to hang from the roof. On July 17, 1981, the hotel had hosted a 1,600-person event that was called the Tea Dance. This design was the main reason why the structural disaster happened in the first place, and it was affected how the capacity and the load tolerance held up the sky bridges. This incident, there were a lot of people on these sky bridges, and the load capacity on the fourth floor could not tolerate it, causing the sky bridges to sway back and forth, and the tolerances gave out, causing the collapse to happen. Seen over here in this picture to the right, the design created double the load on the fourth floor sky bridge, causing the collapse to occur. As you can see in the expanded view, the bolt on the left was holding all of the weight from the second floor sky bridge, and the bolt on the right had held the weight from the fourth floor being connected to the ceiling. These structural issues, the sky bridges were designed to be suspended above the lobby, and being right over each other, it caused too much load bearing on these I-beams that were held next to each other. This minor change in the plan is what caused the disaster to happen. The original design just had a single steel rod going straight through the beam, and it was supposed to be suspended from the roof, held by the retaining nuts underneath the beams. With this design, only 60% was supported for the minimum load that was required for the Kansas City building code at that time. The new design had the steel rods go into the fourth floor sky bridge, which doubled the load on the fourth floor, creating much more stress. Now, if you look at both of these pictures, you can see how the design was changed, and it was basically two beams that were placed up against each other that had that separation crack, which was the main defect. On July 17th, 1981, the Hyatt Regency was hosting this tea dance party in the atrium lobby, which was the main area of the hotel entrance. Approximately 36 people were on the second and fourth floor walkways, also known as the sky bridges. About 1,600 people were on the ground floor throughout the atrium. As the party continued, these connections supporting the Hyatt Regency ceiling rods for the walkway on the fourth floor had failed. At 7:05, the fourth floor walkway came crashing down on the second floor walkway onto all of the occupants below. Seconds later, the second floor walkway came crashing down and ultimately crushing the guests that were underneath. Hundreds of people were killed in a matter of seconds, and many more were severely injured. This event quickly turned into the deadliest structural failure in U.S. history. At 7:08 p.m., the initial dispatch went out to the Kansas City Fire Department. They had responded, and by 7:12, after examining the scene, they had called for additional resources. 7 ambulances total responded and arrived to the scene by 7:18 p.m. Over the next 2 hours, more than 100 fire and emergency personnel were on scene attempting to rescue and remove as many of the victims as possible. Shortly into the rescue and recovery, many requests were made for cutting tools, forklifts, and eventually a crane was needed to accomplish this mass casualty incident of this size and magnitude. The crane ultimately was not put into an optimal position until around 10:30 p.m., which was nearly 3.5 hours after the initial collapse had happened. The emergency personnel didn't start moving the major sections of these sky bridges until 3:15 a.m. the following morning. Eventually, the last survivor of this incident was pulled from the rubble at 4:30 in the morning after, and roughly 9.5 hours after the collapse. At approximately 7:45 a.m., the last sections of the walkways were lifted from the crane, and underneath, 31 bodies were recovered. The final death toll was announced Sunday, nearly 2 days later, with the total deaths coming to 111 and total injuries at 188. Two more people were pronounced dead from their injuries that they had received on the night of the 17th. Some lessons learned from the collapse and some considerations that were thought about. Within 3 months, the hotel was back open and accepting room reservations after all the repairs were done. This collapse had created 16 months of investigations and news coverage about the incident, and shortly after, the world had responded to the Hyatt disaster by upgrading the culture and academic curriculum of engineering ethics and emergency management. This disaster provided a case study teaching first responders the all hazards approach to multiple disciplines across jurisdictions and teaching university students in engineering ethics classes how the smallest personal responsibilities can impact the biggest projects with the worst possible results. Some more considerations to think about. One startling fact is on average, 8 structural collapses occur globally every year, resulting in 300 plus deaths. This is no surprise that the Hyatt collapse highlights the urgency for the continued education and training to prepare for these unanticipated but inevitable tragedies. It's a powerful, painful lesson about the meaning and practice of ethics in engineering. Some concluding remarks. Ultimately, the loss of these 111 lives caused the addition of new approaches toward the response of firefighters and emergency services alike. New regulations and pre-checks have prevented another similar disaster from occurring, saving both life and property. This video link listed below was a great resource that I had found if you would like further information on this disaster. Here are our works cited, and thank you for watching the video.